Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology with Louise Edington. And since I did my last solo video, we had a second murder in Minneapolis, and Pretty and Renee Good. Anyway, it's devastating, to be quite honest. And I think we've all seen the videos, so I just want to send love and support to Minneapolis and to all the brown people that are being hounded by ICE. But the good news is it seems that there's a lot of clapback, and um, I'm sure Kathy and I will talk more about this at the end of the week. Greg, Gestapo Greg, as some people call him because of his coat, um, has gone, and the NRA even are kind of speaking out about the fact that Pretty was entirely entitled to be carrying a concealed weapon with a license and so on and so forth. But there's also, I've created that document I've talked about a few times with articles and links that you might find interesting. It's a Google Doc, and I'll keep adding things at the top. I think I forgot to share it in the description when Kathy and I did our last video, but I will share it in this one. And a new article I have linked to is how to help Minnesota. I'm sure there's plenty of articles like that, but this one was a very comprehensive one. Anyway, I'm here today. I'm going to talk about the Leo full moon, but I'm also, before we do that, going to quickly talk about the fact that Neptune is now in Aries. Okay, but before I dive into the astrology, I did pull some cards. So I pulled 4 cards, and I kind of intended to one for the full moon, or well, 2 for the full moon, 2 for Neptune going into Aries, but they all seem to work together. So I'm just going to show you the cards. And as always, I'll give you the full breakdown of the cards at the end. So I pulled the Sun, which is very apt for a Leo full moon because the Leo is the Sun's sign. So, and I also pulled the Judge from the Witch Oracle deck. So full details on those later. Then I pulled the Ace of Discs, which also feels very appropriate. And aces are new beginnings. They are the first degree. And so, Neptune being at 0 Aries, the first degree of the zodiac, feels very appropriate for that. And then I also pulled the Priestess of Original Innocence. And I'll speak to that more fully when I read the full breakdown for the cards. But I always think of Aries as a very innocent sign. I've always described it to my students and clients and my members as like the toddler of the zodiac. It's the first sign. It's very direct. It's very kind of pure energy, if you like. And, it gets a lot of bad raps, as a lot of things do, but all things have their shine and shadow. So before I dive into all of the things, let me just give you some keywords for Aries that will be manifesting in all their forms. So Aries is guided by Mars and is a cardinal fire sign. And today we actually have Mars conjunct Pluto as well, which is causing some of the aggression and but also the digging into seeing some of the shadow and the sewer kind of energy as well. So again, everything has its highs and lows. So, but the key concept for Aries, thanks to Jessica Davidson's great website, is the focused release of energy towards new experience. So any planet placed here will be colored by this desire for action and self-assertion. And the key phrase for Aries is I am. If you think about the toddler, the little kid running around, you know, it just wants what it wants, and it's very clear, and it has a little tantrum sometimes if it doesn't get what it wants. It doesn't really have a concept. A small child doesn't have much of a concept of anything beyond itself other than the mother feeding it or hugs, but really understanding the other. You know, the kid is just like getting used to being in its body, right, as a human. So anyway, other words for Aries are, you know, active, adventurous, ardent, can be argumentative, can be assertive, but that can also be aggression, can be brash, can be bullying. And I actually witnessed a really hideous bullying interview on with an astrologer and a woman. It was horrible, but anyway. But also Aries is very confident, very courageous, can be quite crude, can be demanding, but is very direct, quite egotistical at times. Like I said, Aries wants what it wants when it wants it, but it's also enterprising. It's the explorer. It's got this sense of urgency, and in many ways, because of those words, I am, it is your essence. And I talked about this a lot back in March when we had a Venus retrograde in where the star point was at 2 Aries. About this is about finding your essence, okay, Aries, and especially as we have these major energies moving through the sign of Aries. Okay, so I'm gonna just quickly share my chart, and then we will move on to the full moon. But I'm not doing 2 videos. So this was DC time. So Neptune finally moved into Aries at 12:34 p.m. Eastern time yesterday. So that would have been 10:34 a.m. for me. Well, it's on my south node, and yes, I've got a lot of energies there, but I am going to talk about them all at some point, don't worry. So so here is Neptune, okay, moved into Aries. Now last year Neptune moved into Aries from March the 30th until October the 22nd. Saturn also moved into Aries from May the 24th to September the 1st, but the two did not meet. Now these two are heading towards this conjunction, the first conjunction since, and I just have to remind myself of the date again, I'm sorry, 4361 BCE. Now I am being interviewed by astrologer Marina Ormes on Monday about the bigger picture around that as I see it. But briefly, that's about 3 ages. And it's really interesting if you look at that time that I've interviewed Bibhu Misra about the yugas and all these things. And so he said both the Yuga system and many other cosmologies say we've been in this descending ending of a major great age. So 3 ages ago, Neptune and Saturn met at 0 Aries at the same time. And my friend and client, Kat Collette, I interviewed her again on this channel, you can look at that, has done some research about these cardinal points. So I don't want to get too much in the weeds here. But I do want to say it's a big deal. So why? Aries is, 0 Aries is the cardinal point. It is the beginning of the zodiac. Aries is the pioneer, new beginnings. Again, it's a cardinal sign, so it's initiating new things, all of this. And now Neptune is in Aries and will be in Aries until 2039. Now, Neptune will move into Taurus from May 21st to October 21st in 2038, and then dip back into Aries, and then finally move into Taurus in 2039. So you can see it's kind of 12-13 years is going to be in the sign of Aries after that same length of time in the sign of Pisces. Now, I always think of this shift from Pisces to Aries as kind of crossing this threshold. It's like the end of the zodiac to the beginning of the zodiac. It's the last sign of the zodiac, which is very collective and is chaotic and is bringing everything together into this Aries, which is very kind of pure, if you like. Okay, so I think you're probably getting the idea about, this is a major shift. And yes, we got a glimpse of it last year, but this is big. And this, my South Node is at 0 Aries in the 3rd house, which is all to do with mind, information. And I didn't sleep at all last night. I don't expect that to continue, but the ingress kind of kicked something off, and I just couldn't turn off my mind. I tried all kinds of things. I tried deep breathing. I tried this, that, and the other. And I feel actually kind of fine, though a little bit wired for sound. But Neptune in Aries, this long journey, we got a glimpse of it last year, as I said. And, so think back to the period from the end of March last year to October the 22nd. But I'm actually going to include the period in March as well, when we had the first lot of eclipses last year, because we actually had a Venus retrograde that was also going back from Aries to Pisces, and a Mercury retrograde going back from Aries to Pisces. And then we had the eclipses as well. Okay. So, all of this energy was straddling the last and the first sign of the zodiac. And all this as we head into the first eclipse that's in the Aquarius Leo axis, but the nodes are still in Virgo and Pisces, but more on that one later. But what might Neptune in Aries bring? And I will add the layer of Saturn later, but active spirituality, you could say. Instead of like passive meditation, it's about embodying beliefs and fighting for ideals. And in the you cannot make this up department, I've seen several of my friends who are in the so-called woo world, if you like, talking about those who are all love and light, spiritual bypassing, rising above. We're too pure and spiritual to deal with the right world. I even saw an interview about somebody that had left Zen Buddhism because of a similar reason. This because this is the first time in 165 years since Neptune has moved into Aries. This is saying it's time to fight for your ideals. Okay. So that's been the tenor of the posts I've seen and so on. It's also the rise of individualism. Belief systems become more personally driven rather than collective, allowing for unique spiritual journeys, which is something I encourage through astrology, about how you work with the cosmos yourself for your own individual journey, right? It's also kind of got that spiritual warrior, a push to combine compassion with courage to fight for personal freedom and social change. And we see that with the response to the 2 murders really in Minneapolis, but the last one was kind of the because it was so on video, like from all angles, more than a Renee Goods one, by the way. Anyway, it's also increasing the risk for impulsiveness, or the potential for impulsiveness and dogmatic conflicts. I think we're seeing a lot of that as well. Misdirected aggressive or fiery actions, and cultural shifts. Okay, so there could be a potential renaissance in mysticism, the arts, as well as focus on overcoming personal rather than societal limitations. So, this is all really huge, to be quite honest. And I'm not surprised, that this would not let me sleep last night, as it really hit. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Saturn kind of does the same when it moves in. And then Saturn and Neptune will conjunct on February the 20th, 3 days after the solar eclipse. So more on all of that later. So I just want you to know that this is a big shift. So January the 26th, 2026, if we go back, you can see the dates last year, and then you can see that last time Neptune moved into Aries for the first time was 1861. Now, a lot of astrologers are saying that was the time of the Civil War, and it was indeed. But, and I agree there will be kind of resonance with that shift. But I do want to point out that an awful lot else was in different places. Uranus was already in Gemini, and Uranus has not yet moved fully into Gemini. So I'm going to go with some of the slower moving planets now. Pluto was in Taurus, which is very different to Pluto in Aquarius, even though they're fixed signs. Okay. Saturn was in Virgo. Okay, so, Saturn is now about to join Neptune. Again, I'm only going to look at the really slower moving planets. But I also want to say that the South Node was at 17 Cancer and the North Node at 17 Capricorn. And if we go to the next two, the nodes were still in Cancer and Capricorn. And the USA is a Cancer country. To go back to that first ingress, we've actually just had a Venus star point conjunct where the North Node was then. So I think this is kind of learning the lessons of those last 165 years since Neptune last moved into Aries. And in another, you cannot make this stuff up. I follow a black woman called Dr. Stacey Patton on Substack, and she actually recorded this in her voice. And so she wrote a blog post and recorded it about called, oh gosh, what was it called? Sorry. Oh, I want to get the title right because it was quite a challenging, shall we say, title, but that's okay. I kind of agreed her. She said, deport white America. Why does that sound unthinkable? I urge you to go and listen to it before you go, what? She's kind of talking about the energy of white America and all the things I've been talking about for months and months and months about how the Constitution was only written for, white nationalist males who clinging onto fat power of domination, all those kind of things. Yes, a lot of other white people, women included, upheld all of that energy. You know all of those things. I don't need to go on about them all myself again. But I just wanted to show you that this is a big shift. And because it's 165 years and because this time Saturn is meeting it, I urge you to listen when Marina publishes it, Marina Ormes. Okay. So I will, of course, be sharing it. They're all free, these interviews. So on to the full moon. Now, the first thing I want to say about this full moon is, and I need to just close some windows so I don't get lost, is that this is the fourth and final full moon at 13 degrees. After this, we actually have a lunar eclipse is the next full moon, and that's at 12 degrees 51, and gradually then these new and full moons will change. We've actually had, we are having 7 new moons, including a solar eclipse and including an eclipse back last year, all at 28 degrees. And so new moons are kind of like a real jolt of a reset. But full moons are more fulfillment and bringing things to fruition. So this one, before I share the chart, is a full moon on February the 1st. I will show you the chart. And this is at 13 degrees, 3 minutes of Leo. I will talk about the numbers as always. Leo rules the heart, and it's the sun is the planet. Leo is the sun's home, basically. I hate the term ruling, but anyway. It also does rule aorta, blood pressure, and blood circulation, by the way, Leo. Just saying, because, certain person has a Pluto in Leo that's very close to this full moon. I will say no more. Apparent leader of this country. Anyway, so it's on February the 1st, and it is the fourth of 4 full moons at 13 degrees. Now, 4 itself is a number of stability. It is a number of, like, you've got the legs that hold up the table, that hold up the chair. It's a very stable number. In the tarot, the 4s are always stability. And I think we're starting to see, and I know it still seems terrible out there, and it is, but also we are starting to see people change. We just are. Okay, so I'm going to share the chart. Well, apparently I didn't open it. Bear with me. You see, this is my life at the moment. Every time it's kind of like, oh my God, I didn't do that. Or I upload things and they don't work. Or like last week, I was going to interview Sonia Geary, who I actually interviewed yesterday, and we were both sitting in separate Zoom rooms, and I do not know how. So, because these energies are wild. But let's share the full moon chart. It's powerful, to be quite honest. And I'm going to draw a whole ton of lines, but I did draw. So it's a Leo full moon. So the moon, our emotions, people in mundane astrology, is in the sun's sign. And the sun, which is the very core, is or our center of our solar system, center of everything really, and also like the sun of the divine, is in the opposite sign, Aquarius, which is the sign of the people. It's the sign of humanitarianism. It's also, has its shadow. So Aquarius can be a very authoritarian sign. Its traditional ruler or guide was Saturn, but also its modern guide is Aquarius. And I would look at that, what all that means anyway. But Aquarius is characterized usually as visionary, humanitarian, and the innovator. It's kind of quite intellectual, independent, rebellious, and eccentric. And I can tell you that side of it really resonates most with me, because my progressed sun has been in Aquarius for 28 years. So I've become more and more kind of rebellious and all those things, often driven by a need to challenge the status quo. They are usually forward. Aquarius energy is forward thinking, quite detached, can see the bigger picture, and community oriented. Okay. Now, of course, there is some shadow, everything has a shadow. Aquarius energy can be quite dispassionate to an nth degree. It can be rather aloof, but it can also be quite extreme. Okay, Aquarius can be fanatical, and so I think we can see that on all sides of the globe, and not just this country, and not just politically. Okay. We've seen a lot of this fanatical energy come up in many, many ways, which is why I always encourage you to do your self-care and do your grounding and be aware of where you are kind of being cultivated, which is more kind of Leo. But look at all this Aquarius on this full moon. Just look at it, okay? So we have Pluto in Aquarius. As I record this today, which is Tuesday, the 27th of January. God, this year's going by. Has Mars conjunct, Mars and Pluto being the traditional and modern guides for Scorpio, where Haumea is. I've talked about the Pluto Haumea square for so long. Again, we are seeing some aggression and over assertion, shall we say, and reactivity as well, which can be very Mars. But also we're seeing the rise of the spiritual. I just saw a lovely chant, a new chant that people are chanting. And I can't remember the song, but it's very short. It's basically about we are not going to do something when our friends are dying or something like that. So, God love you, Minnesota, because you are doing God's work up there, or the divine's work. Interestingly, Neptune is also very related to water in its oceanic, and Saturn is at the end of Pisces, and we've seen those major ice storms and things. But all these Minnesotans are also coming out in extreme cold and using that cold to their advantage in their protests. To stand up against, yes, you cannot make the word up, ice in this energy. Wow. It's also the CBP, the Customs and Border Patrol people were sent there as well, which is wild because there's 130,000 undocumented immigrants in Minnesota, and there's 1.7 million in Texas, and there's 2,000 agents in Texas, 3,000, or there was, in Minnesota. Is that really just about criminals? Anyway, more on this. So with Mars at 7 degrees, Mars is still under the beams of the sun. But we also have Vesta. Vesta is our own inner flame, but also the flame of the hearth or state. So we're seeing that one on both levels as well. And in an air sign, I would say these flames are being fanned, okay? And this is the closest planet or planetary body, I know, Vesta's an asteroid, to the sun. And Vesta is saying, fan your inner flames, fan what you know in your heart to be the right thing to do, let's say. Okay. There's the sun at 13. But on the other side, we also have Venus, which is values, women, money as well. Silver's skyrocketing. There's many factors in that. But also, it's, all things we value, whether it's money as well, belongings, and our core values and our relationships, okay? And that's in Aquarius. And that's the relationship to, I would say, the collective that we are kind of feeling with Venus in Aquarius. Okay, so we are really tuning into that energy. Then, and Venus is also still under the beams of the sun, so their energy is kind of working in the background. It's less accessible to us right now. It's a bit offline, but that's enabling us to kind of step back. These planets are not kind of working us in a way, if you like, right now. So we're able to take a step back and look at that bigger picture, ready to kind of really jump out of the gate when all these planets are not under the beams of the sun. Then we also have Mercury. Mercury is our mind, our ideas, our communication, our thoughts. And Mercury is also still offline and under the beams of the sun. And I've said it on a few videos, but Mercury, Venus, and Mars are 3 of the personal planets. I count Ceres as one now as well, but we'll look at Ceres in a minute. And Mercury is about to join Chariklo, the spinner of grace, though she is literally the wisdom weaver, which is kind of why I started calling myself that. She kind of pulls all these threads. She's holding space for us to create something different and to weave a new story in this amazing time. So anyway, you can see how concentrated this Aquarius energy is. So even if we take out the asteroids and the centaurs, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major planetary bodies in the sign of Aquarius. And then one by one, they're all going to move into Pisces. Mercury and Venus, hearts and minds, will join before that. But this is all concentrated on this full moon. The Leo moon is carrying a heavy weight. And I always think of Leo moons as very joyful, very buoyant, but also very easily popped, like a overblown red bouncy ball or balloon. All right. And so Leo is, a lot of bubbles are being burst, shall we say, by this opposition to this heavyweight energy over here. Now, Leo is our vitality, is sustained vitality and loyalty. It's also colored by recognition and drama. Leo is the phrase really is I will kind of thing. It's the sign related to royalty, but of course it also has other meanings as well. Leo is also very affectionate, but I would say also very wants affection, wants to be adored. Okay, Leo. It's quite boisterous as well, bombastic, quite loud. Where might we be seeing that? Quite cheerful, but also quite childlike. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. But Leo can be really courageous. So remember, kind of in your personal life, Leo is kind of your mood, your emotions, and so on. But in this collective energy that we're in, it's also the people. So, this moon in the sign of royalty, in the sign of the king, if you like, is kind of carrying all the weight of the people. And the people are starting to rise up more and more. And I think we're going to see more and more of it as Mercury moves 10 degrees away from the sun. Venus moves 10 degrees away from the sun. And Mars, well, the sun moves away from Mars. So by the time of the solar eclipse, which is after this full moon, things are going to start to look very different. But it's starting now. It's kind of emerging. That word emergence is just like coming out. People have been in this, more and more people are kind of seeing their role in the change in the world, and more people are voicing it, speaking out. More and more people are kind of coming up with ideas about what they want the future to look like as a whole. And but it's more of a collective focus. I don't know if you all saw that, because some of you are not in the US. There was a Republican running for governor in Minnesota, and he withdrew from the race because he said the way that people of different coloured skins are being treated in Minnesota, meaning different to white, obviously, because he's a white man. But he said it's horrible, and he said, I can't do that. I can't support this for my daughter's sake. There's the female coming in too, right? Anyway, it's working on so many layers. This full moon is pretty huge. But I also want you to remember it is a fulfillment, and that the sun and moon are opposing each other and looking at each other. This is heightened energy. And in some ways, you could say, because the moon is in the sign of the sun, we are being invited to really look into our heart and see with the eye of the heart, the new, which I've talked about many, many times. So I'm going to just draw some lines as well and draw some aspects. Okay, here we go. So I said I would get to Ceres. Ceres is square to this full moon. And I've talked about Ceres. I'm going to do it from here. Okay, so Ceres is in Aries. We've just looked at the energy of Aries. I've talked about her a lot. She is about meeting our own needs, both individually and then rippling out. It's kind of like the putting your oxygen mask on energy. Incidentally, I'm going to start sharing the link, let's say, for my Ceres workshop, which is now moved to March 21st from March the 7th, because I don't know what was going through my insane mind picking March the 7th for it when I look at my astrology with it. But anyway, March 21st, 22nd, 2-day full immersion, recordings all available for 2 months, plus some other bonuses. Everybody that signs up will get a copy of their chart in the system I use. You can put it in your own if you use different house systems. It's going to be a very interactive immersion, right? Where you're really going to get to know Ceres. It's kind of based on my book, but we'll go deeper. Okay, and we will be looking at people's charts on it, which I don't usually do in my workshops. Probably won't be the ability to look at everybody's. So it'll kind of be who puts their hand up first. But, you know, there we go. But you'll learn from looking at other people's charts too. Okay. So Ceres is square this full moon on February the 1st. And anything square to the full moon is like a turning point as well. And after this, everything is moving towards Ceres and saying we are learning to put ourselves first, to put our oxygen mask on first. I've talked about it over and over. And then to let that ripple out to help others too. In whatever way works for you, right? You know, we can't all do everything. Now, another thing I want to look at on this chart. So I'm just gonna I'm going to make the line a little thinner and do a red line this time. Okay. So, Uranus. Oh, goodness. Uranus. Is that? No. Oh, good Lord. Oh, technical difficulties. I'm going to draw an arrow because hopefully I'll have more luck with that. Uranus is over here. And Uranus is stationed on this full moon. Uranus stations direct for the last time in Taurus, which is Venus' sign, and is the sign of values, rootedness, core values, but also kind of the material world and so on. Money, again. Uranus stations direct on February the 3rd at 27 degrees 27 minutes of Taurus. Oh my God. Now, without going deep into that number, 27 is a 9, which is endings, but also 27 in numerology. Okay. And because it's a double 27, it's the number of humanitarianism, wisdom, intuition, service. By some, it's said to be the number of the bodhisattva. Now then, what is the bodhisattva? In Hinduism, the bodhisattva, or in Buddhist philosophy actually, it's related to the highest level of consciousness. It's often referred to as the scepter, symbolizing authority, intellectual power, and karmic rewards for past actions. It's related to the guru, which is the teacher, signifying someone meant to guide others in some way. Okay. So, of course, it's made up of 2, which is balance, partnership, which is often said to be the divine feminine number, and 7, which is spirituality and introspection. So you can you see how spiritual this full moon is? Then just a quick brief mention of 13 again, because I've done it 3 times in the last full moons. 13 is really the number of the divine feminine. You know, it's the number of the witch. It's one of the Fibonacci sequence numbers, which is very related to the Venus cycle. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, you know, it's just all these things keep adding up. 13. The divine feminine in all its forms, whatever you want to call it. The yin energy, the energy of compassion, the energy of love is rising. And again, I see people saying that over and over. Of course, 13 has been demonized by the culture we are leaving, by the age that we are coming out of. That probably the declining age of that probably began on that 0 degree conjunction of Saturn and Neptune back 3 ages ago. So I'm not going to go on about 13 again. You can look it up yourself, or you have to Google this 13 numerology. But you know, it's also you know, it does have some spiritual things about it, and it's said to be the number of eternal return. 12 and then goes to 1, which is 13, and round the wheel of life, or the sacred hoop, we go again. Round and round the ages we go again, as we reach this rebalancing and remembering point. All right. What a time. What a time. So let me have a look at this. And oh yes, what else did I want to say about this? Because I probably will not have time to do another video about this, but Uranus is stationing direct at that bodhisattva number, conjunct Algol, fixed star Algol. Now, I hope you watched the presentation or the interview, whatever I do with Marina Ormes, because 3 ages ago, Algol was at 28 Aquarius about. It's moved. Sorry, Aquarius. Yes, Aquarius there. It's moved 1, 2, 3 signs, 3 ages. But anyway, Uranus is stationing direct conjunct it. This happens to still be aspecting a certain apparent leader's chart, but Kathy and I will probably look at that. It's aspecting it in a big way, so it's kind of huge, really. So other things I want to talk about. Okay, there's so much I could talk about, but I think I do want to talk about the fact that the North Node is sextile to Pholus, and that's kind of making a finger of fate or God to to the moon on that. So this is a point of destiny again. Okay, so many points of destiny, so much major change. I don't know what else to say. It's just so huge, all of this. And we're in the eclipse portal as the eclipses start to change signs. So I'm going to stop the share. And I just want to mention that with the eclipses. So the transiting nodes, they spend about 19 months in a sign, always moving backwards through the zodiac. You'll find these 19 months and 9.5 months energies in the Venus cycle, in lunar families, which I talked about with Sonia Giri yesterday. But, you know, looking ahead, so we are almost at the end of the node's journey through Virgo and Pisces. And the first eclipse that we have is on the 17th. It's a solar eclipse. Yeah, it's what's called an annular, which is a ring of fire, which seems quite appropriate for all this fire energy right now. But also, you know, all these things are just so amazing to me. But anyway, February the 17th, we have this solar annular eclipse, and it's at 28 Aquarius, but the nodes are still in Virgo and Pisces. Then we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, and the nodes are still in Virgo and Pisces. But by the time we get to the next set of eclipses, I am going to show you just one. So we have a solar total eclipse, not visible over the US. At 20 Leo, their nodes will have just moved into Aquarius and Leo for another 19 months. So we're another kind of, oh, I should show you that one. We're another kind of shifting of energies, right? Or the beginning of it. So I'm not going to go into this in great detail at the moment, except I have to mention that this solar eclipse is at the same degree as a 20 Leo Venus star point. By the way, at the end of the year, I will also be doing my Venus retrograde class. Well, October, end of September through October into early November. But the 20 Leo Venus star point was on August the 13th, 2023. So this major time that we've been in is being activated by almost everything, it seems. But anyway, I don't want you to think too far ahead. Back to this full moon. We've looked at 13. I'll talk more about it in a minute, but I do now want to look at the symbols for it, okay? But before I look at the symbols for the full moon, I do want to mention the Sabian symbol for that first degree of Aries where Neptune has just moved to. We've had it before, but the Sabian symbol is a woman rises out of the ocean and a seal embraces her. This is the emergence of individual consciousness, a new beginning, new self-awareness, and potential from the collective unconscious, signifying the birth of the self and the drive for pioneering new experiences, often tied to inner feminine, masculine balance and new potentials for growth. All the things I've been talking about. If I go to James Burgess' site for it, he says, this is about becoming the essence seed of your soul's incarnation. And it's the recognition of potential and emergence, again, that word, out of the realm of potentiality into the realm of reality, Pisces to Aries. Everything that ever comes to pass has had its first beginnings in the realm of potentiality. The ghost of an idea not formed, neither expressed nor explicit yet, in seed form containing the unconscious potential for realization. The vast majority of seeds are not germinated and so fail to realize their potential. In the beginning, we become an individual. We need to emerge from the sea of collective unconsciousness to leave the womb. And first, the desire is simply to be, because it is still far from certain whether survival itself can be attained. This is happening collectively, all right? Oh, it's what times? I don't think I'm going to read the Chandra symbols. I'll perhaps look at those on another video. Back to the full moon, because even though that 0 point of Aries is a seeding, Saturn is still in Pisces, in that chaos, the womb, the collective unconsciousness, all of the energy of Pisces at the very end of the zodiac. And we will not have their conjunction till after a new moon, when it's like setting the seeds for the future, planting, growing, moving. Right now we are in a full moon, which is a release, and then we're going to have the waning moon. Okay. But I do want to read you the Sabian symbol for the full moon. And I'm just going to read from James Burgess again. So, human soul awaiting opportunity for expression, because we go to Leo 14. Having learned survival requirements and social expectations, eventually we learn to let the soul or heart speak out freely. So this could be said to be speaking, I'm going to say speaking with the heart's voice. He says the soul's voice, but anyway. Upon reflection, perhaps at last we learn from experience that the smoothest and safest course to take through life is the one that truly and immediately allows complete soul expression. Okay, now then, Chandra symbols for the full moon. I'm going to read the Omega symbol, because I love the Omega symbols actually. Anyway, toward the center of a galaxy, this concentration of stars becomes denser and denser, and this is transforming and responsible. And remember, we had a new moon in December right on the galactic center, and 3i Atlas came from that area and then was closest to Earth on that new moon, but now is kind of almost in a full moon to us. According to Stefan Burns, the sun, it's kind of, anyway, it's, I can't, you'll have to watch his video. He said, there's a lot more we're finding out about 3i Atlas, and what are we being told? And it came from the this center of the galaxy, the galactic center, with that name 3i, which is third eye in many ways. And this is transforming and responsible, but it was also closest to Earth on a Sagittarius new moon, and will leave our solar system with a close-ish flyby to Jupiter. And this is the sign of the teacher, not the preacher, the teacher. Going back to that guru again. The degree angel for this from John Sandbach is Iahel, he says. Iahel. I-A-H, Iahel. Okay. Anyway, which is the parent, teacher, not preacher. and it's the desire to know and to understand. Okay. I'll read the Chandra symbol, then I'll read his description. And the Chandra symbol is fields of jasmine flowers. Might go and put my jasmine essential oil on. I love the smell of it. Anyway, John Sambach wrote, "You're aware that angels are everywhere. Whether you call them that or not, you might just think of these energies as goodness or beauty or joy. Conscious of it or not, you are a messenger for the angels." I always think of the planets in that way, or the planetary energies. And all you have to do is to give into it. Let it happen. And above all, keep at it, even if at times your messages are heard only faintly or not at all. Now, jet fields of jasmine flowers. Jasmine flowers enhance self-esteem as well as physical and sensual attraction, and is administered in homeopathy, I'm going to say, to bring back energy. Jasmine does. If you've ever used the essential oil, it gives you a boost of energy. I clearly need it because of no sleep last night. But anyway. The density of the stars in the Omega symbol, or rather in the center of our galaxy, are like the density of the jasmine blossoms in the fields. The truth of this degree is that we all have each other as great resources of learning, wisdom, joy, and delight. And I would say we also have the cosmic energies. But anyway, and since we become what we focus on, all we need to do is keep focusing on the loving connections that are everywhere around us. Wow. Oh, I like the Pleiadian symbol, by the way, as well, which is tiny balls of multicolored lights flickering through a forest. The fairies, you could say. Anyway, and that's the rewritten Sabian symbol, if you like. So I just, because this is such a big thing, I do want to read Elias Lonsdale's interpretation of the Chandra symbol for 14 Leo. Fields of jasmine flowers. To be surrounded by love is the heart's delight. To contact a grace bestowal of love and light, and of light, of love and of light as your birthright, is the greatest fanning of the human flame. When there is brightness and bounty as far as the eye can see, the inner self knows that they are welcome to embody here. To inhabit this realm is to be in paradise, and it is to bear a seed from paradise, from the unfallen kingdoms into this world now. You hope and yearn to deposit that seed wherever it can flourish. This will tend to be where things are just beginning or alive with future fertilities. The seed honors the original impulse behind Earth's existence. And this paean of praises, this ode to joy, remains solidly in there, ready to emerge, there's that word again, when conditions are right and there is nothing left to do except brighten into being. Now then, we go to the cards. And first of all, if you remember, I'm just going to get to the right page. We have Dionysus, which is card 19 in the Red Seeds Tarot. I keep thinking I'm going to change to the red threads, but clearly I'm not meant to yet. And this is emphasizing that reading of the Chandra symbol. I am joy. But this is reversed. This is your inner joy. This is your center. This is letting your illumination shine outwards, but first by finding it within yourself, right? Finding your inner joy, finding your inner bliss, to quote Joseph Campbell. And Dionysus. To worship Dionysus is to worship the life force. Ecstasy was once considered a divine gift. And that's from Robert Johnson, Ecstasy, Understanding the Psychology of Joy. I can recommend that book. It's amazing. So the sun, in this book, it says it's the masculine principle. I think that it's genderless, to be quite honest, but it is the symbol of the ego, expressing how we see our conscious self and how we relate to others. I'm not going to read all of it, but this is asking you to connect with the golden rays of the inner light of spiritual energy, symbolizing radiance and wholeness. Wrap yourself in the warmth of love, deep joy, and positivity, for the sun is shining on you and honoring your empowerment, individuality, and independence. Your vitality, self-confidence, inner strength, and optimism is called for. Make use of it, for these are golden days. Be proud of who you are. Feel your confidence and self-esteem flowing through you. The sun rises and another day dawns. The sun sets and the night is before us. Celebrate this star that we so often take for granted. Give thanks for the life it gives us. But it's in you, within you. Okay, so I am going to come back to the tarot because the order I pulled them in, I've got to read the Judge next, card 21 from The Witch Oracle by Angie Sullins. I actually saw that she actually wrote a really long poem on Facebook this morning. So it's Angie, ANGISULLINS. Anyway, great writer. So this is the Judge. Now, doesn't it look like the sun is behind the head, right? But anyway, so the Judge, she is the mistress of her own power and she lives in you. Now is the time to call on her. Her message is trust yourself. There is no source outside your sacred self that can make decisions or choices for you. Your feelings, convictions, experiences, and inner knowing are enough. The Judge asks you right now, who is the ultimate judge of your worth and self and well-being? Is it a spouse, your kids, a boss, a friend, lover, family member? Is it a project, a deadline, an expectation? Is it a school or church or other organization? Is it an old belief, a handed down, outdated thought? Is it a society that demands your conformity? A witch knows that the ultimate authority is the self, and therefore she devotes a significant amount of energy listening, tending, and growing the relationship with that self. She is the ultimate judge, listening to all the various voices, thoughts, and opinions, both in her head and in her circle. Now is the time to consult the authority in you and allow yourself to embody your value. Don't shrink for others. You are a galaxy and stars hidden in your skin, with stars hidden in your skin. Trust yourself. Wow. All right, back to the tarot. We then get the Ace of Discs. Discs of Pentacles. Sorry about that rustling. Discs are pentacles or coins and various other names in other decks. Okay, but it's the Earth. This is Earth, the discs. Okay, I was going the wrong way. Discs are at the beginning. Okay, so the Ace of Discs is I am grounded. And again, I pulled this reversed. The goddess of old Europe and ancient Crete represents the unity of life in nature, Delight in the diversity of form and the powers of birth, death, and regeneration. That's from Carol P. Christ, I think it is, but it's spelt Christ. Mother Earth offers you success, growth, and abundance. So this is really asking you to ground, to help you stay on that stable foundation. Remember, I talked about stability with the 4th of 13-degree full moons. But Thich Nhat Hanh said, we have always been one with the earth. And this is a prayer to the goddess. I'm not going to read the whole book. And then the last card, last but not least, this is such a big full moon. What a time. Oh, and things are changing so fast. And you'll really feel it now. Neptune has moved into the sign of Aries for the next 12, 13 years. So anyway, this is the priestess of original innocence. How appropriate. We had the original sin when the divine feminine was demonized, right? And this is the original innocence. So look at the cute polar bear. Anyway, look at the woman's face in there. Look at those icicles too, speaking of ice again, right? So let me read from the book. Even though much thought has gone into convincing you of your original sin as a means to keep you small and disempowered, it's innocence that keeps pace with you, like an invisible companion, hoping someday to be noticed and loved. Original innocence is your birthright. All you have to do is look at a newborn to understand this. We don't love the baby because of what it has accomplished, and we don't shame the baby for making messes or being loud or inconveniencing us. The child is treasure, as it is. Nothing but beingness required. A witch knows her innocence is her most foundational nature, and indulges the arms of that gentle awareness around her, holding her in its loving embrace. Now is the time to let go of any shaming thoughts, anguished should-haves, or weighty doubts. You're being asked to transform that perpetual thought, what is wrong with me, into what is in the way of me experiencing my innocence right now. You are treasure, as is. Wrap that truth around you in this moment. Wow. Oh, don't forget to subscribe. I forgot to ask at the beginning. Give me a thumbs up. Check in the details for that Google Doc with some article links if you're interested. Don't have to be. Also, I am going to post the link to my Ceres 2-day immersion. It does have an early bird price until February the 22nd, but it also has a payment plan. So, you know, if you signed up now, your payment plan is spread out nicely. So, okay, so I will be changing that payment plan as we get closer to March 21st, because I do insist that all payments must be in before the course starts. Okay, so one other thing I think I wanted to mention. February the 1st. Oh, I do want to mention it. February the 2nd. Or do I? Bear with me. No, I think I'm actually... No, I'm going to. I'm going to mention it. I'm going to share the chart again, but right after the full moon, the next day, the moon crosses in front of fixed star Regulus. Now, you've probably heard me talking about that. The moon occults or eclipses, fixed stars, slightly more often than planets. We do have a lunar occultation of Mercury, by the way, in February, but Regulus moved from Leo into Virgo from our perspective. And remember, I mentioned that Algol was back at 28 Taurus 3 ages ago. That means Regulus was back at 0 Gemini-ish 3 ages ago and has moved into Virgo from our perspective at the end of 2011. We are moving into an age of more humble, meaningful work. And on the back of this full moon, the moon occults Regulus and says, another reset, while we're still under the energy of this full moon. Just adding to all the things I've said and about you becoming the priestess of original innocence. Much love. Oh, by the way, did you know that maga in Spanish and in a couple of other languages means sorceress or, witch, basically? So on that note, peace out. I will see you later. Bye.